So here we are today. We're at the 9 Mile House, and we're here to see what you would do in a small bathroom. But before we go in there, what's happening here?
Well, as you said, we're working on a small bathroom, and I guess the purpose of this is to illustrate that one size does not fit all.
That's true.
So we're going to be taking a look at several different bathrooms throughout this episode. We're going to start with a small one. We'll look at kind of a mid-size, and then one that's going to be bigger at different projects. That's why we're here.
So a diagnosis such as ALS affects the family and affects a lot of decisions that need to be made, as you're aware. Bathrooms are one of those topics that are really important to learn about for remodeling and an ALS situation. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I have learned is it doesn't take, there's a difference between a bathroom remodel and a bathroom remodel for accessibility. The construction industry has a way of how they think things should go when it comes to remodel. Usually, style and fashion are at the top of the list, and then, functionality is good, and then we don't care what it costs or how long it takes. Where in accessibility, we want to look at it a little bit different. We need to look at safety first, function next, then get into, is this affordable? How fast can I do it? And we want to make it look good, but those are not the priorities when it comes to the accessibility.
So how do you see us helping other families across the country today with the right kind of questions and conversation to have with their contractor, not even themselves being fully aware of what this disease entails for them?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at several different sizes of bathrooms, because everyone's home, their home is their home, and depending on if it was built 10 years ago, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, or it's new construction, we're going to look at several different styles as we go. Small, medium, large to a full, let's take out rooms and walls and make a bathroom based on what we want it to be. So there's kind of a checklist when we walk into a bathroom that we need to start going through. First of all, we need to address, how do we get in? Most bathroom doors are not wide enough to get a chair through. Ideal would be 36.
Okay.
So this door, as we can see here, is a 28-inch door. The second thing we need to take a look at is a shower versus a tub. How is that going to play a role?
We should have had this removed. We should have made it so we had a lot more space to be able to safely move him.
Just giving yourself enough space so also a caregiver or assistant could be right next to him.
Right.
And then not just a walk-in shower, we need a zero-entry shower versus just a walk-in or a step-in. We need to look at the type of flooring to make sure it's not going to be slippery when it's wet. We're also going to want to talk about sinks. Is the vanity or sink something that we need to address for this particular client? Finally, toileting, space around the toilet, bidets, grab bars if they're going to be functional.
I think we just dive right in because these are sensitive topics to families, but let's go ahead and address them right on. Let's tell these families what they can expect and what kind of questions they should be asking.
There we go. So let's go take a look at a small bathroom to start with.
What do you do when you don't have much space?
So one thing that could be done, and we get asked this question, is like people think that they need to blow the walls out and go into a bedroom or some other room. And that's not always a good option, especially if you're renting. There's a lot that we're going to be able to do with this space. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this tub, and this whole tub and surround is going to come out. Because as we talked, we're in a daylight basement. This is a concrete slab that we're standing on. So we're actually going to take and jackhammer a little section of the floor out and reset that plumbing. Mm-hmm. It sounds intimidating. Really, it's just noisy and dusty, and it's not too bad. That'll allow us to reset a drain on the floor over here, and we'll make all of this space. I mean, when this is gone, getting in and off that toilet is going to be a whole lot easier, especially with a caregiver assisting. So there's just a lot more space for that.
Families need to look at with small bathrooms are going to be entryway doors.
Correct.
How wide do they need to be? I think you said a minimum would be ideal 32 inches. Ideal would be
36.
Okay.
So this door, as we can see here, is a 28-inch door, which is very common.
Especially in older homes like 70s and 80s.
Yeah, even from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it was very common to do a 30-inch door on a bedroom, a 28-inch door on the bathroom. People just didn't think about wheelchair access.
For future needs.
And the actual opening, if we look at this, a 28-inch door is actually more like 26 inches because this door comes into that
And that's
space.
not going to work with a power wheelchair.
Not at all.
So one of the things I talk to families about frequently is planning from diagnosis all the way to late stage disease. So what that means is if somebody's able to walk, this is not that difficult. But
Correct.
when they get to the point where they're no longer able to bear weight, when we're using lift systems to move them, this is going to be challenging. So you really want to set it up for the best case scenario within the budget you have.
Correct.
Right?
So in this bathroom, as I said, what we'll do is we'll have this tub gone. So this will all be an open space. Measurement-wise, we're about 5 feet. Measurement-wise, we're about 5 feet wide. And then the length of this bathroom is about 8 or 9 feet. So that gives a lot of space around. Like ADA asks for around a toilet, you have a 5x5 area.
In a perfect world, you'd have 5 feet radius in front of the toilet so that somebody is able to move you or help transfer.
Yeah, so we won't quite have that full space here, but we'll be pretty good and we'll have it to the sides. So back to what we were talking about with the door. So this entry door, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take and widening this opening. So it's not a big deal. We have to move some light switches over, which is not going to be that too bad to do. The vanity, let's talk about vanities for a minute. One of the questions or a thing that people think about is that they have to make the vanity fit a wheelchair.
Right. Well, and that's usually termed like a floating vanity, right?
A floating
sink.
vanity, a wall-mounted sink. Sometimes people want to do a pedestal sink, which you can make function. The challenge with all those is you lose a lot of the top space and the functionality of what a vanity
And storage
gives.
and such.
Storage.
Right.
So a good question that I have found is that with ALS, not all clients are actually going to be utilizing that sink and vanity, because if they lose the motor skills in their arms, you have a caregiver who's brushing their hair, brushing their teeth, doing a lot of the things that you might do to
So
sink.
I would think, from my perspective of understanding how the disease progresses, what are the top 3 things in a bathroom that we're going to need for accessibility and for caring for somebody with ALS? The second thing we need to talk about is, what is the budget? Maybe the budget is very, very small. So we need to get this as efficient as possible within a smaller budget. And that's okay. But we want to make sure we do it right the first time.
Yeah.
So what does this look like?
So the minimum things that we're going to want to have is we do need to have this door widened.
Yeah.
And we need to have this tub go away.
That's right.
So those are the essentials. The vanity, as we were talking about, some clients might be able to access that sink if it's floating. If not, it can just stay as it is and we don't need to touch it. So it can just kind of be its own thing. That's an expense you don't have to incur, and that's a little bit of remodeling doesn't have to need to be done. The other thing that is nice to be able to do is maybe you want to move a wall over into a bedroom or someplace. But that honestly is fairly rare that it makes sense, because most homes are not built with all of this extra space. Everything's being utilized. So this is a very common
Size bathroom.
common size bathroom, and we have done literally dozens and dozens of this type of a footprint. And is it ideal? No, but does it work and function and do the job? Yes. And we can turn this bathroom around in about 4 or 5 days so that the family's not out, especially if this is the only bathroom in the home.
Right. So those are some of the things I think ALS families need to take into consideration. Timeline, budget, space, and how much you want your home disrupted, because it is a disruption to the family. Some contractors are going to take longer than others.
Correct.
You have this down to a science where you can get a bathroom put in really quickly, but some contractors really want to push for that ideal situation, and that could extend the remodel for months.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily the goal with ALS.
No. And when we're done with this, it'll be a nice walk-in European style type wet room with this shower. Very functional for anybody in the household to be able to use.
And I think it's something that can be used for many years down the line. So
Correct.
it doesn't matter for what situation, but they're ready for when they need it.
Correct.
So as we saw in that 9 Mile house, that is a small footprint of a bathroom, but that is probably the most common bathroom that we get called in to do an accessibility type renovation to, just because that is what is in most bathrooms across the country.
One of the three things, maybe 3 to 5 things that we should be looking at in this bathroom. Should we blow out walls, or if that's not in the timeline and the budget, then how do we make use of that space? Just like 9 Mile. 9 Mile, they're renting that home. The homeowners are trying to be as gracious as possible, saying, yes, you can remodel for your needs, but no, we're not willing to blow out the walls and redo the entire floor plan. Can you make it work within this small bathroom? And your answer is?
My answer is yes.
Yes.
It's not ideal, but it works. And it's something that we can get in and do. The timeline for us is about a 5-day turnaround. And this is going to be different for different contractors, but we're able to go in, get that bathroom taken care of, which is especially important in a home where that main floor bathroom is the only bathroom that is accessible for the whole family. So we need to be able to turn that project around fairly quickly so that they're able to use it even throughout the construction process.
I see. So we're looking at widening doors.
Yep.
We're looking at removing bathtubs and replacing with roll-in showers.
Yep.
We're talking about floating sinks. And later we'll talk a little bit about flooring, bidets, and maybe even a little bit of technology in the home.
Yeah, we'll be able to work all that through. But remember, our concepts that we want to keep important are safety and function, and then how fast we can do it, how affordably we can do it. And those are the things we want to take a look at.
And I want to touch on that for just a second, because time is an important conversation to have with ALS. So ALS can affect everybody differently. And so some families, when they're diagnosed with this disease, the disease progresses very quickly. And you have to take that into consideration when you're considering remodeling your home, is do you want to have that process of remodeling your home and all of the disruption that costs on top of learning how to navigate ALS and all of its many, many complications? Or do you have a little bit more time, and you have a little bit more time to put in the features that you want? It's going to be very personal to each family. And so they really have to look at that. And I like how you said safety, function, price, time. And then also the one thing we haven't said yet, make sure and check your state and city codes.
We're going to go take a look at this next house. We'll call it more the medium, call it the blue house. It's a little bit bigger, so not tremendously bigger. We're not going to be blowing out any walls. And we've already started the demo on it, but it has another element that's a little bit different than maybe some of the other houses that we've seen.
Well, and one of the things I'm really liking about this project is we're able to go see 9 Mile, which is a smaller bathroom. Now we're going to go look at the blue house, which is a medium-sized bathroom. And I'm excited to see what this demo looks like.
Well, let's go take a look.
Okay. So today we're at the blue house. And for our audience who might be watching, I just want to say this is not HGTV. We're getting down and dirty into the real issues that some families have. And today we're at the blue house. Tell me about this.
Well, other than it being blue, you can clear the hue. So we're in a mid-'80s manufactured home.
Yes.
And we've already started the demolition on this project because there would have been a garden tub or a soaker tub where we're at now. What we want to illustrate with this is that renovations are not just for the top 10% of the financial side.
Yeah.
This bathroom, I would consider a medium size. So we're still about 5 feet wide, which is like standard width for a bathtub. But our length is we have about 11 feet of length. So by taking this tub out, you can see, we're standing in where the tub would have been. But having that gone, we're going to lower the level of this floor, reroute the plumbing. So we just have a floor drain. The walls are going to be tile. The floor will be tile. And it'll have a nice transition from when you come in to the floor. In order to get our slope, we actually have to build up the center of the floor a little bit. Not by a whole lot, but enough so that all the water
always drains down.
That's right.
Yeah,
we don't need water out in the bedroom there. That's so, so that is our plan, is to create a true zero entry shower in this type of a system. Okay. There's other systems that can be done because this is a fairly standard width. There are inserts, so there are pre-manufactured shower pans. Now, the key in looking at a pre-done one is you don't necessarily want just a walk-in shower because those are going to have the lip or the curb.
Now, my experience, I remember that there are ADA adequate inserts for showers, for walk-in showers. But what is your take on those?
So what we like to do one that is full tile because we can waterproof the entire floor. And as you know, as a caregiver who's helping somebody bathe, water gets all over the floor. So when you have an insert, regardless of what it is, there's a seam between where that insert stops and you have some
And
of
the regular
flooring.
flooring begins.
Yeah, and over time, water can find its way in there even if it's well sealed up. So we like to just avoid that altogether, and we'll waterproof the whole floor. If you do get one that is an insert type system, there are good ones that are out there. There's some that are sturdy, made better than others, but you want to make sure you get one that does not have a curb and that is going to be sturdy enough to stand up to a wheelchair. That's gonna
Rolling
be
into it, like a rolling shower chair is what usually happens. Is the family member will transfer their loved one and roll them into the area. So really that seamlessness, we talk about it a lot in every video. Transitions as seamless as possible all the time.
Correct.
It's great for the pals and it's great for the caregiver, whoever's helping, for safety and for durability. Yeah.
Now, some other things in this bathroom. The toilet will stay where it's at. A bidet will be installed on it. The vanity over here, as we've talked about vanities in the past, depending on what the needs of the client are, sometimes a vanity we can just either take out or leave alone. Depends on what the needs are. If they need a countertop, they can roll under. In this case, the particular client doesn't need to have that countertop. So we're just going to we'll be putting a new vanity in there because that's what the rest of the
Yeah, and
household's
let me
gonna
just
use.
address that a little bit in a little bit more detail. And that is, some people with ALS will have sporadic limb onset and it'll start in your hands or fingers or upper body area. So those people that are having those kind of effects of the disease might not have access to turn faucets on and off or brush their teeth. And they really need somebody there for that. So if that's the case, they don't have to put in that floating sink because they have a caregiver and they can save some money there.
Yeah.
However, if it's disease or a sporadic limb onset and it starts in the legs and their hands are still able to function, they might want to be able to have that independence of still brushing their own teeth and what have you. So that's where the floating sink comes in handy.
Correct. And that's going to be on a family to family basis to make those decisions.
Yeah. But talking about it, I think, is what helps families understand planning from beginning stages of the disease to late stages where there's going to need to be a lot more hands on deck.
Yeah. So, and what will be fun is we'll see the progress of what this looks like, and it'll be a lot nicer when it's all done.
I can't wait to see what this is going to, I'm sure it's going to be a huge improvement.
Yes, it will be.
All right.
So what did you think of that blue house?
Well, it needed a little bit of TLC.
Yes, it did.
But I really like that this project that we're doing is we're showing small bathrooms like 9 Mile, the mid-sized bathroom or a medium-sized bathroom such as the Blue House. And really, I think it's important to be able to address that people have all different kinds of living conditions, rentals, apartments, housing, large houses, small houses. And so we should be talking about different solutions so that they have the best information to make the best choices for them.
That's right. And when it's done, no one's going to know what it looked like beforehand, but it will be very functional and very usable.
Yes, and many families, they're not looking for the most expensive tile and marble and quartz. They're looking for fast, efficient, and make it work because they have a situation that they're dealing with, and they're not dealing with, let's say, HGTV fancy type situations. This is real life, and this is a disease that's terminal and it's progressive, and these families need answers and they need support, and this is one way we're going to offer that to them.
Yep.
So the next bathroom you're going to show us, I haven't seen, but you've already remodeled.
Correct.
And this is one of those, if you had the time, if you had the space, and if you had the budget, you could make it big and have all the perks and whistles that you would want. Can you tell us more about what we're going to see with this larger bathroom?
Yeah, so this next bathroom we're going to take a look at, and once we're there, we'll see it. We were able to actually remove some walls, create a little bit more space, and create the transitions that we need to make it a very good flow.
I can't wait to see it.
Well, here I am in Benton City in our large size bathroom. Theresa couldn't make it down for this shoot, but that's okay. We're going to be able to take a tour and show you what we did down in this bathroom that we remodeled just a couple of months ago. This is our example of what you can do when you have a lot of space. As you can see, this is a very large bathroom now. quite a few square feet. And originally it wasn't configured like this. What we needed to do is actually come in and modify this. There was a standing shower here. On this side was a wall where the toilet was back, creating a water closet that had its own door. And the shower, of course, had a curb to it, and which just wasn't going to work. So what we did to come in and make this functionable so that a chair can easily access it, and also so that the toilet would be very accessible, is we came in, removed the wall. You can still see that the painting hasn't been done, which is okay. Remove the wall, move the toilet over to here, put a drain on the floor. Now for the zero entry shower, what we actually did is in the main part of the floor to get that elevation. So we actually raised the main floor where when you're standing out here, you're about 2 inches taller than where you're at down at this drain. So you can only go down so far within the floor. We got down as far as we could, and then we elevated the rest of the floor, and then it has a very gradual slope on the way out. And you can see it's very easy for a chair to be able to pull in, turn big circles, and get out. So the other things that we did is we made sure we had lots of grab bars, which to be usable when needed. Even the shelves in the corner are grab bar rated. So we've got our handheld magnetic shower head that's easy. So when caregivers are in here, they've got a nice easy spot to put that in. We didn't install a second dock out here, although that's something that could be done. And of course, over in the toilet zone, we've got the bidet all hooked up and ready to go. So wrapping up, this is what a good example of what you can do when you have a large space. You can take and create a zone that is going to be very open, very easy to access. We've got the bars, we've got the shower, we've got the bidet, and importantly, we've got this zero entry wet room design so that it's very easy to maneuver and manipulate. You can see it's just very user-friendly, accessible shower.
So we've seen small bathrooms, medium size, large. We've seen various types of budgets. We've seen different floor plans. But out of all of those options, what are the key tips and tricks we need to be asking our contractor and making sure that we have in those bathrooms?
Okay.
What do those pieces look like?
So the first thing we need to address is getting in. We have to make sure that we're going to be able to widen that door so that the chair can get in and out safely. We're going to want to address the transition at that door threshold. We can't do a whole lot in. We don't want to have this big, steep getting in. We got to make it easy to get into the bathroom. The second thing is we want to make sure that we are talking about a zero entry shower versus a walk-in shower. And you can't just tell a contractor, we need a walk-in shower, because many of those walk-in showers have a lip or a threshold, especially if they're a pre-manufactured piece. So the next thing that we want to address is the type of flooring. I brought a tile board with me, and on this tile board, you can see it's pretty beat up because we carted around. These are the type of flooring colors that we can offer. And what's important about this is when you look on the back of this, it gives us the coefficient of friction. So this is something that's important when looking at a flooring that is going to go into a wet area. It needs to have a certain level to meet a non-slip standard. And designers will sometimes contact me, or the homeowners will say, hey, this is the tile we really want to have. And I have to say, that one's not going to work because it's too slippery when it's wet. And it's not just the safety of the client, it's the safety of those caregivers who are who are helping in that shower. And as you know, water's going to get all over the place. We need them to be able to safely maneuver without a worry about falling down.
That's right.
This is something that is important to know when you're looking at the floor tile. Your tile supplier should know it, but typically if there's a tile board that's like this, they can get the back look at it, and there's a coefficient of friction, and you can read that it's like a 0.60 is what the minimum standard
Minimum
is.
0.60 of friction.
That's right.
Okay, so when they go to talk to their contractor, they need to make sure that any flooring options they use when wet will not be a slip hazard for the patient or the person caring for them.
That is correct.
Okay.
The next function things is, are grab bars going to be important or relevant for the client? Are they going to be able to use them? have some showers where we put in those bars. We have some where they're transferring into a shower chair, and the grab bars are not relevant. In fact, in a small bathroom, sometimes they stick out and they're even in the way. Okay. So that's a question that we have to be able to address.
I want to bring up one point, and I want to be delicate about it, but the reality is this is a progressive disease. So many families will experience their loved one, and they might have limb onset. They also might have what's called bulbar region, where it's affecting this region first. It might affect their hands first, it might affect their feet, one side of their body or the other. This disease is difficult. It's difficult to diagnose. And it's difficult to help an entire family have a high quality life with this progressive disease. What I hope to do today is share with you that making sure that families are planning for the full progression. And the reason why is if you do this in small chunks and you just do a little at a time, it could be actually more costly than planning for full paralysis and all the needs that are entailed with caring for an ALS patient.
And I could give you some 4 examples. A few years ago, we were called in to take a look at a shower, and the client there, we got called by an organization that was working with them for an ALS because of their ALS diagnosis, and they had just had their shower redone like 2 years earlier, but they had a lip. They had a walk-in shower. And at the time, they thought that was going to meet the need for what they were going to accomplish. And, the walls are nice tile, and it's a very well done bathroom, except for that lip. So basically, they asked me what we can do. I says, well, we've got to tear that whole bottom section out and rebuild it. And there's sometimes where we can't just surgically go in and remove because we can't find tile that's going to match. We can't find things that are going to work. So it is important to know where you want to get to and to not just do those little steps, because that might render everything unusable.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to talk about some of these points so that we can help families kind of think not just function, not just safety, not just price and time, but also what are these tips that they should make sure are implemented into the steps of their remodel.
And one more thing I think that it is important to address is a common thought or concern is because the nature of this disease
is progressive
and has an endpoint. People will say, what does this do to my home value? What does this do to
for resale value later?
Yes. And I'm very honest with people. I will tell them on one hand that, we're taking a bathroom that's a full bathroom and we're making it a 3/4 bathroom because we're removing a tub and putting a shower. But it's a very nice one, and it is a style that is very functional and usable for everybody because everybody can use that shower. But the most important thing I tell them is don't worry about modifying your home for the next homeowner. Do what you need to do to be here now, because you could have this bathroom remodeled and make it exactly what you want. The next homeowner might come in and they've got a taste that's pink and purple, whatever, and they rip it all out and put in their own style.
So what I hear you saying is trends change with time. So don't worry about resale value right now. Focus on the family and what they need.
You've got more important things to worry about.
I agree.
Take care of the needs that you have. Make it safe, functionable. Have it in a style that fits you, and you're going to enjoy it, and you won't regret making that choice.
So today we talked about transitions. We've talked about walk-in versus roll-in. We haven't talked about floating sinks yet.
Floating sinks. So we can do floating sinks, but as you know, not every client is necessarily going to be using that. And that's been my experience. When we go in and start having those conversations, we've had some clients that still have the motor skills to be able to use them. They're brushing their own teeth. They're still doing some things. So they need a countertop that they can roll right under, and we're able to do that. Mm-hmm. Other times I go in and the family or the caregivers are doing all that work, and they're like, we prefer to leave the vanity just as it is so that they've got the storage. They've got the storage, they've got the countertops. So it's really on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and I think with ALS too, understanding the progression of the disease is so unique to each individual. And that's one of the challenges for science, drug research, and the care for the patient is how is the disease going to progress for them? So I do know it's difficult for a diagnosis to happen for many families. Statistically, it's 12 to 24 months to get a diagnosis of ALS. And in that time frame, the patient could continue to progress. So if their arms are weaker and they want to save money and not worry about having to get to the sink and turn the faucet, touch the faucet, voice control the faucet, they are going to have somebody there caring for them. Maybe save the money on the floating sink and go to just keeping the cabinet. So we've talked about floating sinks, we've talked about transitions, we've talked about door widening. Let's talk about one of my favorites, bidets. This particular option that I'm talking about is easy to install, fairly affordable. You can get it at your own Home Depot, Lowe's type of, or order online. And all we need is to match it to the size toilet, a water hookup, and electrical outlet. We don't have to make it complicated. But what are your thoughts on toilets, showers, and electrical outlets?
So that's one of the challenges that we have to address, is where that bidet is going to go relative to the shower. If we have a small bathroom and we're doing that, we'll use European style wet room, we need to be aware, is water going to be going where that outlet is? And we just want to be very aware and very cautious of that. And again, we want to follow codes and safety practices for what that power outlet's going to be with that bidet. So that's where you're going to want to make sure that you're talking with an electrician to make sure that you're getting that wired, because most bathrooms don't have an outlet
Right by the toilet.
right by the toilet.
Right.
So that's something that's common. And is it a good idea to be running an extension cord from the cabinet down?
Oh, I see so many problems there.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that you really want to address with your contractor, with an electrician, as a professional, to know what is going to make the most sense in that particular area.
Makes sense, but definitely don't discount a bidet. So we've talked a little bit about transitions and roll-in showers. Can you tell me, because I know from some of the horror stories I've heard from families, is they try to use the least amount of resources to get the job done right, and it ends up causing leaking and mold and rotting floors because they tried to cut corners. What do you want to show me today about roll-in showers and how to create that?
So yeah, let's talk real quick. One of the concepts, because people get intimidated by the showers, they think they have to have because we're dealing with water, they don't want to have it going into the basement or rotting out the floors. One of the things that is available is, it's very easy, are prefabricated inserts. Anytime you're using a prefabricated insert, it is simple on one hand, but you have at that transition between your floor and the shower zone a spot that water can get in, and also a place that your wheels have to go up and over, and potentially a tripping hazard. So we tend to avoid that to do a true full tile zero entry. It's not necessarily required, because there are some very good pre-manufactured pans that exist out there, but they can also be very expensive for the good ones. So the inexpensive ones are ones that sometimes we're called in because they tend to get broken down by wheelchair weight fairly quickly. Water can seep in through those cracks and seams, and in 3 to 4 years, as short as, you can be redoing your whole bathroom because the floor is going bad. We do a dry pack type shower pan, where we actually go in, once we remove the tub, we're taking the subfloor and we're getting it as low in the floor joists as we can handle. And then we're putting in a drain, something like this, that sits low. It's got a waterproofing fabric that we can blend to. There's also ones that are a little bit prettier, that have these linear drains that are very much, if we want to have style and function. These ones aren't cheap, but that is what we're doing to kind of create that water going. For our system, we're using a concrete mix that we bring in and pack. There's also, I brought with me some pre-molded, and there's several manufacturers that will make a molded system where you can see how
I can see how it's sloping.
This
so
is slope.
It's bigger on one end and it gets smaller at the other.
That's right. So
and you would pack that?
Well, you would take and have a floor, and you'd set this, and then this drain would sit at one end of that. Here, you hold the drain. The drain sits there, and then now we have our slope going to that, going back as far as we want, and then this is made to have tile, a waterproofing fabric, and then tile go over the top of that. So
it's such a gradual slope. It's not going to be a danger to anybody that's in a wheelchair with no strength to be able to hold themselves. It's not like it's that steep of a incline or decline.
Yeah, correct. And then there's other ones that are like this that you can, like I said, that could be made as a ramp that might go up to a shower and then drop down.
So here's my question for you. Is this possible if somebody has that lip of the shower we're talking about? Can they save money and go get something similar to this so they can still roll into the shower?
It's possible, but not necessarily ideal, because you still have to be able to get back down that other side, you still have that hump. So this could be used in a pre-done pan, and then you could tile over the top of this, but you still are going to have a little bit of that seam. So these are just some of the systems. There are several other manufacturers that have those that exist. The main thing to keep in mind is making sure that you have a flooring system that doesn't have the big lip. You want to be careful of the seams, and you want to make sure that you can feel that tile is just a rougher type of tile.
Well, and I think what we'll do is on our website, you can check out a PDF form that's going to have some questions for families to be able to utilize, right? And
Correct.
One of those will be what kind of questions you should be asking your contractor. And one of them is, what drains are they using? Are they sloping the floor? Are they using a shower pan, or are they build it themselves? So these are great questions for families to know so that they know their contractors are going to do this job right.
And we want to be available too, that we can help answer some of those questions.
Absolutely.
If they come up. And don't be afraid to have your contractor be able to make some of those calls, to be able to say, where do I need to do this? Because these products are available throughout the country. I mean, this is done in Europe all the time, but knowing where to get that and how to do it sometimes can be a little intimidating, not just for a homeowner, but maybe even for a smaller contractor that doesn't have that experience. So we've looked at all of these bathrooms, but what if remodeling is not an option? I hear that you have some things that you make suggestions to do.
Yeah, we do. Thanks for asking. Matt's Place, one of the things we suggest for families that don't have the budget for remodeling, don't have the space, and honestly don't have the time, one of those solutions is portable showers. They're easy to order online and have shipped to your home, and they're easy to put together and then pull back apart at the end of the day. That's one solution. I know that some families are advised, if they don't have access to durable medical equipment, such as tilting showers, to roll into a shower. Many people suggest bed baths, but the reality is we want to still care for our loved ones and give them the best care possible. So if money is not something that you have to choose where your money is going to go, and it's just not going to be able to be a remodel, then consider portable showers, and you can reach out to various resources in your community who can help supply one of those.
A special thanks to ALS Finding a Cure, We Care. This video would not be possible without their support.
And I'd like to remind you to be sure to check with your local building codes and permitting requirements when doing any remodeling construction project in your own home. Okay, so we are here at the 9 Mile House to take a look. We're actually doing a couple of projects here.
I can't.